Welcome everyone to our panel around AI-ready teams, and especially looking at it from the perspective of non-tech professionals as they work alongside AI. The do's and the don'ts, what will make their life more efficient, more effective as we go on that journey. And thanks a lot to Leeds Digital Festival for giving us this opportunity. And I have a bunch of panelists today, three very eminent speakers who will be throwing light on this as we go along. And I'll get them to introduce themselves as we go along, as we start the journey. Thank you. So we'll first start with David. David, if you can come in and introduce yourself.
And robots. So hopefully I'll bring some war wounds to the table and share some experiences that give us all, even if we walked away with one thing that we could take away from my failings or successes, I think I've done a good job today. So thank you. Navin, back to you to introduce the next speaker.
Thanks, David. Claire, would you like to go in?
Love to. Thank you for having me today. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I'm Claire Spiller. I've been in the tech industry for about 25 years now. Started off in commercial reskilling in the tech space, so lots of big enterprises that we'd all know. And then moved to AWS to run a CSR reskilling program across Europe, Middle East and Africa. And more recently became the founder of the Cloud Crew and Social Value Consortium. So much more into the impact space and helping the new workforce get to grips with what's out there and what they need to know from both a technical and a soft skills perspective. So definitely agree with what you're saying, David, about the hearts and minds and the people element of this. So look forward to the questions you're going to pose to us today, Navin. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Graham?
Yeah, thanks, Navin. So my name's Graham Hill. I previously had a world of training around business improvement, lean, continuous improvement. And then I came into a whole new world of operational, high-risk operational world of BP, oil and gas. Started off at a chemical plant in Hull, looking after a small team and the compliance piece there. And then I moved down to the London head office, where I headed up a design team in the Safety Academy and sort of ended up as learning director in the Safety Academy. One of our challenges there was learning at where technology and can step in and help in the learning process, especially in areas like coaching that's expensive to do. But if we really want to improve performance, it's looking, coming back to the CI world, where we can use technology to free up the value of the people to really make sure that we're adding value with the people that we've got and bringing the skills through to really add value to the organization. And some of the less high value skills, can we use technology to assist us with that? Just after BP, I spent a spell at Thames Water. Again, very different position from financially, so probably more challenging of where can technology help. And then for the last 18 months, I've been working for, in my own organization doing learning consultancy.
Thanks, Graham. Great. So thank you for taking the time. I know some of you I gave very short notice, but that's how the world of AI is. It's changing very, 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 very rapidly. So David, question to you. You've been seeing operations evolve for a very long time, and we are hearing about this whole world of agentic AI, where AI bots coming close to how humans think and evolve, judgment-based, etc. First of all, how real do you think this is, and is it an evolution or is it a revolution from the previous phase of RPA as far as ops is concerned? And from your standpoint, if you were running a P&L with a team managing ops, how would you go about doing things today vis-a-vis what you would have done, say, 5 years ago or 3 years ago?
Okay.
Long question.
Great questions. How long have we got? I'll do it in a couple of minutes, hopefully.
You got 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, because they are like strategy days in themselves, right? And I think the work that we do, and I work with, I'm blessed to work with the C-suite of some major businesses, public, private sector, and the question I keep getting is, is AI really coming to take the jobs? And I don't think robots are standing in HR department waiting to be interviewed to take over the roles of the 1,000 agents, or the 1,000 or the 50 agents. But I think the people with the skills to ask the right questions and use AI will replace the people that don't know how to. And I think that's the next iteration of this. You talk about revolution or evolution. I think the evolution of this is there will be a welcome space in organizations for people, talented, skilled people, to have the right questions and understand what the art of the possibles might be. To start with the questions around why. Why would we redesign our service? Is it going to make our customers happier? Is it going to give us more revenue? Is it going to help us have a lifetime value longer with our clients? Understand the why. I'll tell a quick story at the AWS's Leadership Summit, AWS put on an incredible event in London for the European client base. And every leader that was talking at that conference or that was attending said the same thing. They're overworked and overwhelmed, and so is their teams. There's 30 pieces of technology applications that we've downloaded. And thinking my device, like today, I'm running on like 30 different bits of kit that's making me faster, making me slower, helping me think, helping me get more done. It's overload. And I think in all of this, we've got to ask ourselves, does AI actually create more space and time to be creative and innovative? Or is it making us work harder and do more? I mean, we've got to work smarter, right, and still do more. And working smarter is giving us the commodity back that's no price in it, which is our time to live the best life and have the best experience. So I think the help that people need in business and businesses need with their people is ask the right questions and understand what the art of the possible might be. And from a P&L perspective, Navin and colleagues, I think the use of AI, whether it's agentic, generative, its existence in our ecosystems should do one of many things, but the two pillars I come back to is, can it help you grow? So can it help you do more of what you want to do and less of what you don't want to do? And that's maybe for a retailer, go find more customers, find more sales, find opportunities through conversation and intelligence and big data. And the second thing it can help you do is be more efficient. So if we give you more clients through helping find the opportunities that you never seen because the human computing power wasn't there, the brain wasn't fast enough, it wasn't active enough for 24 hours, but the robot is, then when you get that client opportunity, if it's a client or a service user, if it's public sector, then how do we process that person's experience with us more efficiently and better to make the end user happier? And I think that's the beautiful thing with AI, where you reduce the cost to serve, but in a way that makes your client and your colleague happier. And yes, I think there is an absolute wakening up that we all have to have, which is there are robots coming for the human jobs, but the humans need to quickly skill themselves. And I know it's a subject close to your heart, Navin. You guys do it better than anyone I know in terms of helping give people the toolkit to be the change makers in the businesses and the organizations. We need more of that. And I think there's a big job to be done with helping our current workforce understand and step up and have a toolkit that doesn't make them subject matter experts. They're not black belt lean practitioners in AI now. What they should be is people who understand the tools available to them, and then in a practical way, how to use them safely, not sending customer data out to ChatGPT. The internet is written in ink. So have some basic house rules around how can AI make us super powerful. Final thing before I pass on, Warren Buffett was interviewed recently and he was asked, what's your prediction on AI and how it's going to affect industry? He said, I'll tell you a story about Coca-Cola. When they invented the refrigerator in America to go into everyone's home, the guys who invented the refrigerator made a fortune. But the people who made more from the refrigerator, this new bit of stuff, this kit, was Coca-Cola, who chilled our drinks and sold more drinks. They put a fridge in every service station, right? It became and now like we live our lives differently because of the fridge. But those organizations that thought, I'm a retailer, I sell groceries. If I put these refrigerators into my store, I can sell more groceries on bulk, have bigger shopping experiences with my clients, win loyalty. So for me, like this is the golden opportunity. It's Industrial Revolution 6.0. We should be asking the questions about how can AI give our business and our people superpowers? And it's not about flicking off a switch with humans and putting on a switch with robots. And let me say this finally before I hand on. Our people are our greatest asset. Our computers and our cloud power and our speed of access to data is secondary to the people that are at the heartbeat of our business. So let's look after them. Let's make sure we give them the ability to be more effective by making sure the tools we give them elevate their ability to have more time to think about being innovative with our business for our client. That's hopefully answers your 2 points.
Great. No, thanks, David. Thanks for setting it up. So, and in fact, as you mentioned, tools and skills will be very, very important for people working in this in the world of ops. So I'll just kind of build this up a bit. So, for example, if we look at somebody who's working in, say, finance and accounts function, accounts receivable, accounts payable, right? And there was a team of 10 people managing their accounts payable operations, for example. And that's changed today, hypothetically, to say 6 bots and 4 humans. So earlier it was 10 humans, now it is 6 bots and 4 humans, and doing the same role, which is accounts payable, which means I am kind of ensuring that money gets paid out to the vendors who have to be paid basis the invoices and the rules that's out there. Now, this human who's left in the team, which is one of those 4, so how does that person operate on a day-to-day basis? Coming into the office or working remote, how does the day look? How does it change vis-a-vis what it used to be in the world when it was 10 humans? What are some of the key skills required? Like the role will become more in terms of managing exceptions and deviations and judgment rather than doing the actual transaction, right? So, what kind of skills, behaviors would we be looking at? And I'd like Claire to come in, and if she can throw some lights around uh, what would be everything is relevant, but what is it? Some things that we would like to put our finger on and say, hey, these are 3 things that you really need to be working on or building on or developing for you to continue to stay effective as you go along.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I'd say is just picking up from David's point is that a good implementation of AI technologies is a win for employees as well as businesses, because the boring, monotonous tasks that people get sick to death of doing all the time will be replaced in a good way by AI. And we know that staff retention is a huge problem for most businesses. You get good people, the good people get bored, and if you don't keep them interested, they move on. So implementing AI and getting rid of those boring tasks will be a good win for staff retention. What that does mean is that people have then got more time. And what we're not hearing is people are sat there panicking because they're bored and they've got nothing to do. What we're seeing is 77% of people are actually saying they're now being overworked because of AI implementations, which is not where we need to be. So I think we've got to rebalance this and, like you say, pick up the skills that people do need now and use them in the right way and give them time to do those activities more effectively. So we're looking at more people-centric skills. So those conversations, if you take accounts payable, if you take HR roles, if you take customer service roles, it means that people have got more time to have better conversations on the more difficult topics. And I think that's really important. They're the bits that bots aren't going to take over. But probably the most important skills that we need to embed in the workforce for all roles are critical thinking and analytical thinking. And if we get that right, then that's a good thing for all of us. Now, there is a problem with that. So some of the reports are saying that there's 2 downsides of implementing AI. So we think that people will be thinking more, but actually we're seeing something called cognitive laziness, where people that have adopted AI more effectively day to day or more predominantly day to day are actually not thinking for themselves as much anymore. They're asking bots, they're asking ChatGPT, they're asking different AI tools to do that thinking for them. Well, that's okay if that's a starting point and then you build on that, but that's not happening across the board. And we're seeing something called satisfying, which is accepting less than satisfactory results. So accepting an adequate result, and instead of pushing the prompt to then do more, we're just accepting it and then moving on. So there's a couple of downsides that are coming through. So I think, to answer your question about skills, we've got to teach people analytical and critical thinking skills, but we've also got to teach them how AI opens the door for us all to be doing more and doing things better by spending time on those activities, not just doing things quicker and then moving on to the next thing. And back to my first point about people feeling overworked, there's probably a piece of work to do around helping leaders to understand how to manage workforces when you have adopted AI. People can't suddenly do a huge amount more. If we end up with an overworked workforce, we lose the gains that we have through reducing those boring tasks. So there's quite a few points there, but to answer your question directly, critical thinking, analytical thinking, and just being more creative with how we're using AI.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. I mean, definitely critical thinking and analytical ability will be very helpful. I'll just pass the same question to Graham as well, because I would like to hear his perspectives. And if possible, let's also touch on the emotional resilience side of things, because you have a bot which doesn't tire, right? Works 24 hours a day. I'm a human. I have limitations, right? So, and I get compared with the bot, whereas my roles could be different. Obviously, it is maybe more supervisory, judgmental, but that's the team dynamics now. So imagine appraisals happening 1 year down the line. So what do you get compared against? So what uh, kind of an emotional state of mind should you be carrying to work every day in the world which is rapidly getting AI-fied, for want of a better term? Yeah, yeah, Graham.
Okay. So, firstly, I absolutely back the points by Claire and David. And just to come back to sort of David's point about it being a tool, I'm of an age where, well, I started life as a joiner, but I'm of an age before cordless screwdrivers and massive technology like that seemed groundbreaking at the time, that everybody was frightened about and what was the impact. So I know it's a very simplistic comparison, but I always describe whenever I'm sort of talking to people is a, a joiner has a toolbox, and you can have the most up-to-date tools or some old tools in there and some tools you use often, tools you use don't. The skill is in the joiner knowing which tools to use. If the only skill the joiner's got is to use a hammer, everything looks like a nail, to use the analogy. So really, as we learn different ways of working, agile, lean, or as new technologies come in, the skill is saying, these are new tools in the toolbox. How can we use and utilize these tools effectively? What's worrying me a little bit, and I sort of it twigged a bit when David was saying it, is the mindset towards some of these new technologies coming in. So I've sat in a number of sort of learning and development webinars and seminars where people are talking about AI taking their role as instructional designers and learning experts and all these sorts of elements. But on the flip side of that, learning's been talking for a long time of taking the focus off learning and more onto performance, the outcome of learning. How do we actually get more from the people we employ and really get the value from what they do? And I think this is where AI and new technologies come in, is want to look at it as a tool and what can we really get from it? And then what are the skills, what are those skills that people have that can really add value? So in a world of, look at the big players, Amazon and likewise, the move is so much more towards problem solving than doing a particular task. That, Amazon have grown astronomically on the back of solving lots of different problems. Nobody really thinks of them as a company selling books anymore. So their industry is selling problems. Now that takes time for people to address problems and bring people in with problem solving skills. So I think there's an element of changing the mindset, getting people to see this as a tool and something that can really help us, and where can we really get the value from it. And then where we're freeing people up or time up from not doing the monotonous jobs, as Claire said, is where's the real value in their time? Well, people are good at solving problems. People are good at being innovative. And if we look at the world we live in, the organizations that are growing have got lots and lots of those skills in those teams. They've got innovative people. They've got people that can solve problems and help them move forward. So I think these are the sort of, those core skills, as we call them, Navin, these core skills that are really going to help organizations as they move forward. There's a really nice TED talk by a lady called Lisa Lyons, who I used to work with at BP. And she talks now about people having 4 careers in a lifetime, not one. So what becomes more important now is less the technical skills and more those transferable skills that you can take right across the board. And as you know, as learning people, we want to focus on that performance and what are those transferable skills that are going to really take the organizations forward.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and if I may, I'd just add a couple of things to that, Graham, because there's some really good points there. I think we've all been talking about doing more and doing things faster. And I'd just throw into the mix there something I think you're starting to touch on, which is us all doing things better. And a really good example I heard of this recently was somebody that had been using Copilot in team meetings, not to transcribe, but to run it to see if there was much bias in what was being said. And they'd all prided themselves on being real champions of recognising unconscious bias, etc. But they ran Copilot to then fine-tune things that they hadn't even realised they were doing. I thought, what a smart way of using it. So my kind of second point running on from that is not just understanding what the tools can do and running with that, but then questioning what else could they do as well, not to do more, but to make us better at what we do and be kinder in the workplace as well as faster.
Can I jump in and on
yes,
the back
yes,
of what
David.
said
In fact,
there, which is like
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah. No, before you jump in, David, a
Please.
little bit more. I'll maybe put a little bit of boundary for you. Imagine you were running this team of this finance and account team that I was talking about, accounts payable, right? And you are the leader. You come into the office in the morning. So you've seen it change from 10 humans to now 4 bots, 6 bots and 4 humans only. And you're talking to the humans. It's a team meeting. How do you inspire them? How do you motivate them? How do you kind of ensure that they give their 110% that day and the following day? So yeah, so you could kind of keep that perspective and then of course add whatever you feel like.
It leads perfectly. You must be telepathic as well as an all-round amazing human, Navin, because I was about to actually give a little tip to colleagues listening. You know, it answers your question. What Claire and Graham's just said. I think the trick here is don't do it to people, do it with them. Now, if we're a triangle and the boss is at the top, well, I like organizations that are upside down and our people have the answers. We're here to facilitate what they tell us, right? Because they're closer to what we do as an operation. I think make them the change agents. So if you're running that team meeting you're talking about, the 4 colleagues and 6 people have been made redundant or redeployed somewhere else, you actually get them to come up with the opportunities, not you. It's, sitting in an ivory tower, bringing in a consulting firm to say we should make that process shorter, you should make it deeper, we should add some tech to replace that customer journey from a human to a robot. Let's get the people who are on the desk doing the job to say, what would you change? And let's not be frightened of that. Let's give them the talking stick. Let's get them the design and ask them, in an ideal world, what if you had more time? What if you had more resources? What if you had better data? What if you had a team of 100 of you doing this? What would that look like? Now, when you do that, you get true engagement because you get advocates for the process. If you go back to the 90s when we were implementing Toyota production system in manufacturing businesses and making lines more efficient, I mean, what we said to people was, we're going to paint some boxes on the floor and every tool has a thing and everything has a tool. And the organizations that did well with that change, those organizations got the people to be the change agents. They never painted boxes on the floor and told people that that's where the hammer goes. Like they actually had the guys paint the boxes on the floors and place their hammers in. So make this AI revolution, there's no magic sauce, there's no secret answer, but we must not lose the ability to innovate. And I'll say this morning, my colleague Brad and I were traveling in business just now. He tells me a story about when he had Lego. He's a wee bit older than me. When he had Lego, it wasn't Star Wars. It wasn't Peppa Pig. It was just blocks that you made your own building with and you had to use your imagination. And now what we do with toys, like they're so advanced that children are given rules to say that block plus that block with that colour ends up looking like that. And you're creating a narrow lane which says that's what Lego should, you play Star Wars with that Lego set. And I think what we need to do is give our colleagues the blocks that have not quite got an end picture and say, how would you use those things to make your customer journey better, to make your job easier, to make your customer's experience better? So use your colleagues as your secret weapons to use the tools to implement the little sprints and fail fast. Create environments where it's okay to fail in a safe way. Don't give all your data out there and let customers be the impact receiver of that failing. But like, I think that's Amazon's success is down to being able to try things. Facebook, every colleague in Facebook can take 10,000 of their customers and try something with. They change a button there. So let's do that with AI use case. Don't bring in big consulting firms to redesign our customer journey. They don't know our business. Our people do.
Yeah, you really love consulting, David, right? So I can see that.
I think I've spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah, before we move forward, just wanted to let the audience know that you can please ask as many questions as you would like. And my colleague Akshat is collating them. And we will try and answer some of the questions, as many as we can, towards the last 15 minutes of the session. So don't stop them as they come. Please jot them down and post it, and we'll try and address them as we go along. If we can't address them during this session, then we'll definitely address them post that for you. So please keep them coming. Great. So I think we're getting some dynamics of how this world would look. Next question is, I'll open it to anyone, as in, who wants to be an HR manager doing looking at the scenario 1 year down the line, when your team size, when you started off with, uh, was X, and towards the end of the year it is Y, and Y is less than X, and the roles have also got quite fudged compared to, or more ambiguous compared to what it used to be, and you have an employee coming in. I'm just kind of continuously trying to go back to that world of operations and coming in more from a people standpoint, the people who are still there in the teams. How would they react? I mean, how's the world looking? And you're having an appraisal conversation. How do you think it would go? I mean, anyone?
I can jump in quickly and say, I don't think implementing AI tools and practices means a reduced workforce. So that's the first thing I'd say. I don't think it means that you're suddenly sat there and people have been made redundant. If the business is really talking about doing more, doing things better, it's more a case of redeployment. So going back to the top-down leadership we've spoken about, talking about the skills we've already spoken about, actually what we want is a really flexible workforce, and this is what we need to be teaching the next generation. Instead of having that one job destination, I think we've already talked about someone having 4 different jobs in their careers. It's not about job destination anymore. It's about understanding how you can add value to a business in an ever-evolving model. And if we can get the new generation and our existing workforce to thinking that way, I think those HR conversations that you said aren't the same. Actually, they're not, how are you feeling? I'm feeling downtrodden because half my team's been replaced by bots. I'm inspired because actually I've seen my team going into better roles where they think for themselves, and their opinions and their creativity is actually being rewarded rather than being stuck in a box and doing the same thing all day, every day. And as I said, people move on from jobs because they get bored. So if we can create a safe environment where people feel that they can have a career by being flexible and by thinking, where are my skills best placed in a business, rather than I need this particular role, I think it actually helps HR in the long run by having, like I say, a more flexible workforce that feels more rewarded, that feels more inspired.
No, great. Thank you, Claire. Amazing perspective. So my reason to ask, I mean, this particular question is to see what skills come back if I flip the whole thing around. So what I'm hearing is flexibility in the employees. I mean, both from a execution plus mindset standpoint, is going to be very critical, apart from critical thinking, analytical ability, dealing with ambiguity, which is something that they have to bring to the table. Graham, David, anyone wants to kind of jump in and add?
So in our world, Josh Burson's a massive name and he gets bandied around everywhere. And I've just been listening to one of his presentations talking about this exact subject. And what he's saying is, in the world of HR, in the world of business, really, comes back to, where are people adding value? And actually, organizations that grow are organizations that are full of people doing busy work. They're full of, they're organizations that grow are people that can do their work and have got time to be inspirational, to be innovative, to look at where the space is. And I can almost it's almost going back to David's point. Many years ago, when I was doing the lean stuff, we worked in a pharmaceutical factory. And there was a massive warehouse, and it was always chock-a-block, and it was always chaos. And through exactly what David said, is the people getting involved and looking at the processes, some simple processes. 6 months later, this warehouse had 3 cages in it because they had Kanban and they only put stuff in when it was ready to go, and all these efficiencies. And this warehouse guy came to the operations manager and says, when am I getting my notice? Because historically, that's what they'd always seen. You've got spare capacity. And the manufacturing manager said, we're making double what we made per month. We've got 50% less stock than we had 6 months ago. We're more efficient. He said, if you can take your time and go away and find some other areas like you have here, that's time well spent for me. And that mindset, and it comes back to almost the leadership, that mindset of, I haven't got a body free, I've got a body that I can utilize help us grow the business. And I think what we're going to see going forward is organizations that are just going to compete against other organizations on sales and things like that aren't the ones that are going to thrive. It's the ones that have got that opportunity to grow and be innovative and look and think differently. And you've got to give people time and space to do that.
Thanks, Prem. So open mindset, growth mindset, more innovative is going
Absolutely,
to be. It was always good to have, but this is pretty much becoming a must have as we go on this journey.
Absolutely.
David, anything you'd like to add?
Can I say one thing? I was talking to the chief operating officer of one of the world's biggest airlines a short while ago, and she said to me, I've got people in my team who are direct reports and then subordinate reports who are so young and so talented with this digital stuff. And I mean, she's running one of the world's biggest airlines. I don't know what questions to ask them. As a leader, I think I'm pretty good at emotional intelligence, listening skills, turning strategy into action through good communication, being personable. But I was never taught at uni or in my last 3 job roles. She's been with the airline for 30 years, from cabin crew to this amazing story, COO. She said there was no course on what a digital world looks like for an airline, or how we lead digital talent, or how we have those conversations, the questions to ask. You couldn't just come and spend some time with my colleagues and just give us some killer questions to ask our people. And we're there doing that. It's amazing. So I think there's the leadership piece around helping leaders getting help. And by the way, leaders can type into ChatGPT that very thing I've just described and have some phenomenal prompts around the right questions to ask one question. And so this doesn't need to cost a fortune. And then the other thing is having a conversation, say, with you, Navin, saying, go and find us 2 great additional people, or have 2 people in our existing business, and teach them some superpowers, some super skills to come and give us where the opportunities are. And then we'll engage with our colleagues in a framework. Like, be bold, make the move. Henry Ford said years ago, if you don't know what to do something. Like, do something in this space. Like go play in a safe way.
Great. Amazing. So, I mean, just don't sit on the fence, but kind of go and give it a shot. Give it a try, and be open to feedback. I think this is the other thing that's coming in, and there's always a learning moment, and everybody has to learn, and continuously, and in fact more rapidly as we go along. Okay, let me switch gears a bit and kind of go to Claire now. Claire, as a I would say a young entrepreneur. Is that okay if I call you a young entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur, so I'm not sure about the young bit anymore, but carry on.
So see how it feels like 6 months or a year feels like as if it's aeons, right? Yeah. So as an entrepreneur who's, I would say, on an early stage in the journey, uh, and as you're building teams, right, and as you're getting to look at different functions, you're growing, you have an amazing advantage compared to somebody like me who started, say, 16 years ago, when the world of AI and Gen AI did not exist. So the level of efficiencies you can bring into the team is mind-boggling compared to what it would have been, say, 15 years ago, right? How are you thinking through that? Because if somebody is going to go and build out a team today in any function, any line of business, how should they be going about it? How should they be building? What kind of skills to keep in mind? What behaviors to keep in mind? What qualifications to keep in mind? Does academic qualifications really matter, or matter a lot? Don't matter a lot? And how many do you really need? How do you plan for ramp ups and downs, for business uncertainties? Which function would you like to kind of bolt on? Which one would you like to keep flexible? Be good to hear from you, and from Graham as well. And then we'll go to David, who's a seasoned entrepreneur, to see what he has to say and what is he seeing today. Yeah, Claire, if we can start
Okay.
with you.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot there. I would say the bit that resonated the most was writing the business plan to start with, in terms of what the workforce would look like over the first 2 years. And I would say if I'd done that 10 years ago, it would look completely different. So the first thing you think about is what you can outsource and what you can automate to save permanent headcount. And that, that's a fact, because as you quite rightly said, you're going to get peaks and troughs, there's seasonality with everything. Definitely with funding cycles as well. So looking at what you can automate and looking at what you can outsource are still two really important things. And then looking at the roles you need as permanent or human roles. They really sit in two camps in terms of the plan of those roles that we need. So one is that we need really human centric. So we need a community leader, somebody to engage the community, to make sure everybody feels heard, feels listened to, that we're hearing what that audience needs as well. So that two-way communication, having somebody that's really good at bringing things together and listening as well as talking. So that was
Mhm.
the first piece. And the second piece is experience. You can't replace experience of
Yeah.
people that, we've all shared a few anecdotes already today in just half an hour. Those been there, seen it stories are still really important, even in tech. So as the technology is moving on, it doesn't mean that the experience of trialing technologies and seeing it in different environments, that context piece isn't important anymore. It absolutely is. But that brings quite a challenging problem to the space that I sit in, which is helping underrepresented people with skills that are still unemployed break into the workforce. That's where there's a big challenge, and that's where building their experience out early on is going to overcome that big challenge that we see. But for me as an entrepreneur, it's definitely been interesting looking at where you put humans compared to processes and outsourcing as well.
Mhm. So great. In say, the next 3 years, what will be your team size, Claire?
I don't know. I don't know what it'll be. It'll certainly be, there'll be more of the same sorts of roles. So more community leads and more technical experience. They're the two things that will continue to grow for us. Um, but marketing's a big question mark, whether we outsource and automate to a point where we actually don't need internal people. That's been the big question mark for us, actually, since we wrote the plan and since we've been executing.
Okay. Well, let's see how it goes. So one has to be open and flexible, as we said, which is an important skill. Graham?
Yeah, well, as you know, Navin, I'm a massive fan of agile with a capital A, but probably with a small a as well. Is again, looking forward, I think we saw it during COVID, and I think your business was a good example of it. The companies that did really well were those that could change quickly. So companies that are set in the way and have one way of doing things, and that's it, really struggle to change quickly. So I think that opportunity, that being as lean, for want of a better word, as you possibly can. But again, that mindset. I often refer. There's a book. I'm massively into sport and using how sport relates to business. And if you've read the book, Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? They talk about this concept that just lands with me completely, is that in sport, and fair enough, elite sport, it's 80% practice, 20% application. Yet in the business world, we send people on a 2-day course and expect 100% performance after completing a 2-day course. So I think what we need to, if the business is going forward, and if, we're setting up a business, is how do you realistically, obviously 80% no company would survive, but what's that right balance of giving people that opportunity to practice, to trial things? Obviously, David touched on this. What can the people in the business come up with as solutions? But if you don't give them that safe environment to practice and safely do things wrong, you never get that, and you end up set in the ways. And I think one of the things I've seen over the years is, if there's any resistance to change, there's one thing you can guarantee: things are going to change. So people and organizations that resist change, they are going to change, but it's not going to be for the better. I mean, companies that have agile, flexible, allow people to practice, have that right mechanism to practice and see how things work. And if it doesn't work, move on to the next thing, fail quickly and move on to the next thing. So I think for me, that's that you need that structure in place somehow.
Yeah, so some kind of mechanism which gives you those advanced warnings or leading indicators that you try and bring about the change and ensure that it moves in the right direction. Okay, great. David?
Can I say that, change in the context of this discussion and in the context of having a chat with a colleague who's running an accounts team or being a part of the accounts payable team, we love those people, right? Because they are the lifeblood of sending us money, and we can grow our business. Right? Thank you for your money. And Navin, you hit the right team there, right? Make good friends with those people. In fact, they need more people to pay out faster. But it's not about replacement. And I'm going to say this, it's not even an evolved thought, but I'm going to think about it as I'm saying it. It's not about replacement of a process with a robot or a faster digital thing. How about making it better? How about saying, if we've got a customer experience which stops at the point of the transaction, and we don't then ask them a week later, how are you getting on with that? How was that appraisal? How did I do as your manager? Could I have done anything different? We don't do that. Or we don't ask the customer, how were the sneakers? Did they fit okay? Have you been out on a run with them yet? Are you posting a photo on our Instagram account? We don't do that because it's too expensive, right? It would mean more cost on BPO or internal teams. How about we add that in using AI, agentic AI, and saying, how about increasing what we're doing and making it better from the competition? I mean, that's now you're creating raving fans, whether it's an employee who's had an appraisal or a person who's bought a pair of sneakers. We move the needle now because we're doing more. So when you're playing with this stuff and you're innovating as a leader and you're thinking about getting your teams to come up with innovation ideas, don't have the conversation about replacement, have the conversation about betterment. Organizations, and I've said this for 20 plus years, organizations do not think, do not act, do not make decisions. It's their people that do. It's not the robots that do, and I don't think it will be the robots that do in 10 years unless the people are first. Get that bit right. Have the right leadership toolkits to then go and make your business better, not just cheaper, faster, more cost effective. And that's where you get the edge. That's where Netflix wins out from Blockbuster, right? That's where you become the market leader. Don't compete, dominate, and dominate in a way that's a brave new world, right? Be bold.
Yeah. And absolutely. So if we have to think from people's standpoint, because business is between people, and I mean machines, they're just to enable. But one last thing, David, before I get to questions, right? If you were to rewind your journey, say 15 years ago, and build teams, I'm not giving up on that question, right? So build teams. One thing that you would do different, because I don't want to ask three because you will go on for 5 minutes and we don't have that much time. But one thing that you would do different today with the
Nothing,
way
nothing. And I say it authentically because Steve Jobs said when he looked back in his life and he was dying, he said, really, life was just a series of dots and I connected them and it took me to where I am today. And even every dot mattered. So I don't think retrospectively I'd have changed anything because it helps me know what I know today and helps me not know what I don't know. And I'm going to find out tomorrow. But I think the question needs to be, what will you do today based on what you've learned before? And all I'll do is take the learnings from before and add this new thing that I don't quite fully understand yet, which is AI, and go test some stuff. And it's that is the action we take today, not about what I should have done last year, because it wasn't available last year. We couldn't have done it last year. Couldn't have done it 10 years ago. The time is now. The guys that got the internet and their business quick probably made more of a success than those that waited till it was too late. So everything's perfect. We're in the perfect time right now, Navin. I would say to any leader, any person in business, what time is it? My 7-year-old responds to that question and says, the time is now, Daddy. Like, that's because I told him to say that. The time is now for this.
So I think what I'm hearing is that the process, which is like the method, is more important than the tool. And the methods of running businesses fundamentally pretty much stay same or similar, the paradigms. What can get enhanced is with the tools and the ecosystem, the environment, the political, the social, economic situations all around. But business is business. Profit is revenue minus cost. That fundamental equation does not change. Right? Can that be a takeaway for our listeners?
I think it can. I think what we're saying is create a safe environment. And as I've been sat here, I thought, we're all talking from quite a knowledgeable place where we've used AI, we've taught AI, etc. There'll be probably people listening that need to automate, use AI for businesses that are nothing to do with tech, because tech runs through all businesses and all industries now. And this safe environment is the big takeaway. You don't need to have all the answers as a boss, as a leader, as a founder. What you need is to educate and empower your workforce to create those answers and create those opportunities for you. And the government has just launched this initiative to reskill 7.5 million people across the UK. That's an existing workforce reskilling fund. That's significant. Anyone can dip into that. That's a 5-year program. Let's hope it doesn't take 5 years to reskill that many people. But my advice would be, if you're starting out, you don't know where to start with AI in your business, you're not a tech organisation, have a look at the digital skills framework. They're just about to add AI into that framework. And just see where your workforce currently is. You'll have some superstars with these skills that you didn't even know you had. Start with them, give them confidence, let them come up with the ideas, and just empower the workforce. And then use the government funding to upskill those that don't have the skills. And before you know it, people have the skills, the safe environment, and your business will be moving forward with everybody having the answers, not just you leading.
Great. So I'll jump into questions now. And the first one is for Claire, pretty much leading into what you were just talking about, but I'll read that out. Hi, Claire. Marcus here. Since generative AI can be biased, what is one simple, practical check or step a non-technical user can take away every day to mitigate bias in the output of their AI tool?
Well, the same thing as we've been saying, just question. An AI output is just a starting point. It's not the finished point. So double check everything that's being said, fact check, just as you would if you ask somebody else's opinion on something. All the AI tools are giving you there is a combination of answers that somebody else has already put into the tool, and it's your job then to see what's sensible, but fact check everything. And also just be mindful that what we're putting into the tools is also teaching those tools. Tools aren't just giving you answers, they're learning from everything you're putting in as well. So we all need to have a bit of responsibility for things we're feeding it, and the way we're asking it questions is also training it. So have some responsibility over that level of bias in what you're saying and how you're saying it, because we're all responsible for those outputs ultimately.
I mean, how does one spot bias, Claire? If I'm non-technical, well, I'm just building on to Marcus's question here. Are there ways that we can spot, because is it the way the message comes in, or is it because it seems to be humoring me when I think it should not be humoring me? I mean, are there some leading indicators that can help me spot bias, especially when I'm early on the bandwagon?
Yeah, so I think just studying a bit for unconscious bias sets us all in good stead, actually. So the things that we would do in normal human interactions applies to interpreting AI results as well. So I would definitely look into unconscious bias as a topic. It's something quite quick to look into, but something that's really relevant. That will help you spot particular terminology, things that people that don't look and sound like you might find offensive that you never even thought of before, for example. So definitely look into unconscious bias as well as just general bias. And just be mindful of it when you're looking at those results, as you would do in everyday life as well.
Great. So moving on, the next question is for Graham. This is from Sarah. Uh, since you focus on agile learning, what's the quickest low stakes way for a non-tech team to test and validate on AI tools usefulness before they commit to full training or a large scale project? Shall I read that again, Graham?
Yep, read it again.
Yeah, because it's a very long sentence. So, and reading is not the same as talking, right? So, since you focus on agile learning, which you do, right? What's the quickest low stakes way for a non-tech team to test and validate an AI tool's usefulness before they commit to full training or a large scale project? So, it's a non-tech team. What's the best way they can figure out pretty much that you don't go that path very long and then figure out that you are going in the wrong direction, right? Yeah.
I think it comes back to David's point in that talk to the people in the team, understand what they do now, what they currently do. I would be questioning where AI could add value. So what are the things that it can do that frees them up to do more value added things? I'd try and get a really clear view of, what the task is they're trying to achieve, and then find the right tools to do that task. Not just find a tool and make it fit the task. It's a case of really understanding where it's going to add that core value to your team and where it's going to take Claire's made a point. We employ really intelligent people, and historically, we've then given them really laborious jobs to do. Let's look at where we can take the laborious jobs away, give that to a bot or to a system, and then free those people up to really engage and really use their brains. And while Claire was talking, and it sort of answers this question, one of the things that crossed my mind was we were saying about how do you spot bias? Well, if you look at a historic machine operator, they understand the basics operation of how that machine works, and then they apply their skills to make it work. And AI is exactly the same. Have some understanding of how the algorithms work and how that might influence bias, and then work accordingly. Don't just go into it with no understanding of actually what's been fed into that in the first place. So I think go in with your eyes open, understand a little bit around how it works. You don't need to be a programmer or somebody that really, I wouldn't even go down that route, but go and find a little bit more out about how it works. Understand what it is you want to do, understand where it adds value, and then look at the right tools to fill that gap.
Yeah. There are a whole lot of questions that have popped up, and we have just 5 minutes to kind of close. So maybe I'll take one or two questions. Yeah, I think this is from Alex. When measuring the success of an AI implementation on a non-tech team, what metrics should we use instead of simple time saving or productivity to truly capture the value or quality improvement? I think it's a great question. So time and productivity is easy to measure, but what else? Anyone is open to all of us.
I'll jump in there and say, impact measures, right? And Claire talked about, the world of impact and what's important to your business. It goes back to the business plan and how it strategically fits and aligns. And there's bits not in the business plan, which is called innovation, that nobody thought about when they wrote the plan. So I just think have a scorecard. Graham talked about the world of lean and what gets measured gets done, the boards that told us how we were doing, visibility, right? So have that as your starting point. What does great look like for us? What turns us in from being a good business to a brilliant business? And then those are the things that we measure. Did it make the boat go faster, the bike go faster? Did it move us in those areas? And I think that is about good communication with your stakeholders, your customers, and your people. Great.
And I would just add, set those parameters at the start as well. Set the outcome success measures, not the output. So really where you want to see the difference. It won't be as quick to measure that. The outputs are important to know you're on track for it, but be really bold and put those outcome success measures down on paper or on a board where it's visible, and just head in that direction.
Awesome. Next question is for David from Naina. How can non-technical project leaders quickly differentiate between an AI tool that is genuinely operationally useful and one that is just technically cool but adds no real business value?
So I think we're in a world where the sales professionals are having a great field day on selling us stuff that looks and sounds brilliant, but in practical terms, it becomes another widget. So I think you've got to test them and break them, and then you know if you've got something that will help your business be better. So I think it's about having hands-on experience, and like vendors should be giving you access to those things. And that's what software as a service businesses do all the time, right? Have it for free, use it, see how much it will make your life better, and then give us $50 a month or $500,000 a month. Like, you got to use it and try and break it. And then, like, this is incredible. And if you're not saying this is incredible, it's the wrong tool.
Yeah. Great. I think we have a whole lot of questions, but I'm getting messages saying that we need to close. So I think I'll probably just summarize. Maybe there's one question for me. I should take that as well. I mean, there were quite a few, but says Maria, for companies that, this is from Maria for Navin, for companies that lack in-house training capabilities, what key attributes should they look for in an external university or reskilling partner to ensure the AI training is relevant and practical for non-tech roles? So any partner that you look for, I think what you should really check is, have they been on the other side of the table? Meaning, are they just people who teach you what to do, or have they done it themselves? Can that company bring the balance? Because most of the time, that's where there's a slip between the lip and the cup. And if you find that in that team, or overall, at least as an organization, you have that balance, then what you will learn will be useful and you will be able to apply. Otherwise, you will learn something which is cool, but probably not sure whether you can apply. Great. So I think I'll just summarize the rest of the questions. We'll come back to you, I mean, individually, and answer you in an offline mode, just for the lack of time. But what we are hearing, I think, from the panel here is that in the world of AI, and when teams are going to be pretty much hybrid with bots and humans, the kind of skills that are very critical, what was coming up is ability to think critically, stay analytical, be innovative. Flexibility and handling ambiguity is going to be very, very key from both perspectives, right? And the fact is that when you're in such situations, it's better to do and try and fail rather than sitting and watching on the fence and seeing the things keep going by. And it's an amazing time to build teams if you're entrepreneurs or if you're first stage, say early stage managers in companies, right? Because what you have, I can tell you, David was very kind. He didn't kind of answer the question, is that the way you can go about building teams right now is way, way, way easier and much, much cheaper than what it would be, say, 15, 20 years ago. So it's an amazing time, but there's obviously some amount of nervousness, which is rightly so, in terms of how this whole monster is going to see. Is it going to be devil, or is it going to be a non-devil, for want of a better term? But I think we've seen enough changes, enough evolutions in the past. As long as we stay positive and we keep trying and keep thinking good things, and ensuring that we keep people in mind. I think that was the most important thing coming up. People in mind as we go on this journey. It will definitely be a much, much better world that we are heading towards. Right. With that, I'd like to thank my panel here for taking the time and really sharing their stories, perspectives, and making it very enriching. And that's obvious with the you guys can't see the questions, but I'm seeing there's so many of them. It's difficult for me to listen to you and read the questions at the same time. So I think perils of a virtual session. So great job. Thank you, David. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Graham. Thanks for taking the time. And thanks to the audience for sticking around, listening carefully, listening a lot, and asking very, very good questions. Hopefully, we've been able to throw some light. And this is going to be an evolving topic as we go along. So stay tuned in to our handle on LinkedIn, and we'll keep updating this as we go along. Thank you. Have a great day, and talk to you soon somewhere.